Hello, ICT101 students. Today begins week 5 of the course. This week we'll be covering how to organize information. So up to this point, we've gone through all the processes up to gathering the information, making sure the information is valid, credible, reliable. Now we're going to talk about organization of the information itself. So when we think about organizing information, I put a couple of different documents in here. One of them is the PowerPoint slide for chapter 5 of the textbook related to organizing information. I also put a little brief document in here that kind of goes over the different organizational methods and then a brief description about them. So you have organization by category or concept. You could think, and then the description on the right is here, but you can think of this one more of a think of a supermarket, and in the supermarket, how things are organized in the supermarket, the food items by category. So that's a good, I think, analogy for this one here. Chronological, of course, would be time. So if your information is related to maybe a historical event, chronologically presenting that to others, organizing it and presenting it to others in some kind of time frame or time format is going to be essential. Hierarchical organization, this is used basically when information is best conveyed in a specific type of order. It indicates relative significance of information as from most to least important or least complex to most complex. And then there's alphabetical organization as well. This is appropriate when the reader knows the information he or she is looking for and has to create or has to locate it by a keyword. Is used to organize information in a manner that does not suggest a hierarchy. So that's just there as a matter of kind of quick reference for you. The PowerPoint slides, I want to just go over these for a couple minutes, spending particular time on just a couple of areas here. So the goal of this chapter, and really what you need to begin to think about now for your final project, and we're going to talk in a few days. I'll post a video going over the details of your final project, because for this week I'm going to ask you to get into groups. If you're not happy with the groups that you're in for last week's assignment, get in touch with me and I'll put you in another group. Or if you have a preference of somebody that you want to work with that you did not get to work with for last week's assignment, let me know. So email me, I'm going to say before Saturday of this week, to let me know whether you want to change group members or not. And if I don't hear from everybody by Saturday, I will keep you in the groups that you're in, and that will be your final project group. Okay? So, organizing information. Here are the goals essentially. So, we're going to convey an effective message. Okay? Well, what does that mean? Well, we gathered up a bunch of information. So, now how do we take the information that we have and get the message across to other people without just handing them all of the research work that we did and say, here's what I found. So we have to kind of compile our findings and think about a way to convey to them an effective message. Okay? So we're going to select the appropriate delivery method. Do we sit down one-on-one with our boss and say, okay, this is what I came up with? Do we write it out? Do we write a paper on it? Do we create a PowerPoint or some other visual presentation? Okay. And then we're going to make sure that we organize the information logically and coherently. So if, for example, if we're doing a PowerPoint presentation, that the information is in some kind of logical order. So it's not jumping around and not making sense for the people we're trying to get the message across to. Okay. So for this class, you're going to create a Google presentation, okay, using slides. And that presentation is going to be done in groups. And again, this is getting into the details of the group project, but it's going to be related to media bias. Okay, so that's all I'll say for now. So you're going to create a Google Slides presentation, and you're going to work with others. You're going to make sure that it's organized in a way that is going to convey an effective message. We already have the appropriate delivery method. It is Google Slides. That's our delivery method here. And we're going to make sure that when you're doing your presentation, that you organize the information in some kind of logical and coherent fashion. Okay? So these other slides, I'm just going to kind of scroll through them quickly. Just make sure that you read through these and take this stuff into consideration when you work on your final project presentation. I'll say to you, refer back to chapter 5 on this section on general concepts. Okay, so that's the importance of this chapter for now. Okay. So let me skip down here. There's details about each of the different types, and here's that chart again that is out on the previous page in the module. Bloom's taxonomy, read over this. This is related to the taxonomy of learning, and you kind of have to put this in your mind. What do you want to get across to your audience? Do you want them to have some kind of basic knowledge of your topic, or do you want them to really be able to comprehend it? Do you want them to be able to take what you're presenting and apply it in some way? Okay. Do you want them to be able to take what you are presenting and to be able to break down the concept in its different components? Or do you want them to be able to synthesize it? The evaluation piece is the top stage of Bloom's taxonomy. And by the way, these start at the knowledge as the very basic. So if you could think of this in terms of your college education, your first year classes in college, a lot of them are aimed at kind of giving you that base knowledge of what you need in your major. So for instance, like anatomy and physiology course, you have to have a lot of background, a lot of information about the body and how it works and cells and all that other stuff. So a lot of that is kind of that rote learning where you're memorizing different parts of the body and different systems of the body, and then you're remembering that. That's kind of that giving you that base knowledge. As you advance up through your studies, you're learning a little bit higher in terms of being able to comprehend, compare, summarize, show an understanding of the concepts, and then applying that as well. This is what I learned. Now I'm going to take what I learned and apply it. Okay. All right, so these are just some questions I think would probably be a good idea for you to just kind of ask yourselves as you're thinking through this, and maybe try to come up with an answer for some of those. And this is some different ways of presenting the information effectively, verbally, graphically, using multimedia. And that is it. That's all I'm going to cover for right now, I think. I don't think there was anything else here. Oh, yeah, pay attention to these slides on bar charts, because it gives you some nice examples of ways that you can illustrate your data, thinking about what type of chart and graph is most appropriate and that kind of stuff. That's important, especially with pie charts. A lot of times pie charts can be deceiving in terms of how the data is seen by others. And yes, this is one. The last thing I want to talk about is this is the appearance. So make sure you keep in mind when you're doing your presentations the background, the font, making sure that the background doesn't cover the font or make it too blurry or too difficult to read, as is shown here on the example number 1. This is not a good contrast and it is difficult to read. So you would most likely need a darker font here if you want to stick with this background. Okay. This is an unconventional color combination because it is difficult to read, and it could be distracting as well. So maybe a darker, more conventional color combination here. Here's one here that is an appropriate one. It's good contrast. It's pleasing to the eye. So if you switch back and forth from this slide to the previous slide, you can see that, should be able to see the difference and the difficulty reading this one versus what's on this slide here. So again, keep these things in mind, and I'll go more in detail on this when I put the presentation out regarding your final project here later this week or by the weekend. Okay. I just want to jump right back out here for a second to the home tab. So again, we are in week 5 right now, and what you have to complete this week is the chapters 4 and 5 exercise. So you're going to have to refer back to the previous week's PowerPoint slides on chapter 4, and then there's a discussion related to organizing information here as well. Make sure that you get that submitted. It is worth 5 points. And then next week, we're going to finish up the book. Essentially, not that you have the book, but the PowerPoints, the last PowerPoints are for next week, chapter 6. And then you'll have a chapter 6 exercise presentation discussion. I may move one of these, and then next week is when you're really going to start on your group project as well. So week 6, week 7, and then week 8 will be presenting the information to me in your groups, and I'll talk again more about the details of how we're going to do that in the next video that I post. So week 6, going to finish up in chapter 6 and have a discussion about your presentation. That's your final project. Week 7 is all about focusing on graduation requirements. There are 2 parts to a project there. They're listed here. And also, you're going to spend the majority of week 7 working on your final group project. And then week 8, you will be presenting your group project, and you will be submitting it as well. Okay, so that is all I wanted to cover now. So if you have any questions or concerns, as always, please reach out to me. Email, text, call. You can set up office hours with me using